Uh, I'm Gary, and I'm an alcoholic from down here in Mississippi. Glenn and everybody believes I live on the bayou with all the alligators and everything, which I'm so close. But I was honored that Glenn thought about me this morning. He didn't have much of a choice, but I appreciate it. And my story, I'm not going to go through my all my war stories. You know, everybody has those, all those in the past and everything. And I don't want to bore you with those, but I'll begin that. I was born in a little town called Woodville, Mississippi, which is on the Mississippi-Louisiana line. My parents lived there all their life, and I have two brothers and myself, and my daddy and uncle opened up a service station, an oil company there, and before World War II, when they came back, they had it that was there. And I was born here, and I didn't have any problem. You know, my being Italian descent, you think everybody drinks all the time, but Dad didn't really drink that much. He drank what they call a Jack's beer or something, a few things like that. And I can remember my first real drink of alcohol. I was like a junior in high school, and I got real drunk and showed my ass. I'll just tell you like it is. My daddy was gonna whip me, but I laid off, and then I never really thought much about drinking and that. But it's not a lot to do down here, kind of like the bayou. You know, you hunt, you fish, you chase the pretty ladies down here, and we drink a little bit. And I never thought I had a problem with alcohol. I had to go live with my grandmother in the country because my brother, when my younger brother was born, we didn't know what, I didn't know what it called. He had like a hole in his heart or a heart murmur. So I went to live with my grandmother out in the country, which was probably the best part of my life because it taught me how to live off the land. You've heard stories like that: milk the cow, make the butter, do all of that. She wasn't poor, but she was very, well, she was poor. You know, she even got commodities. I don't mind telling you that. And we would go to church every Sunday. She couldn't drive. The priest would pick us up and take us to church. And being Catholic, you know, later on in life, I had a resentment about the church. I guess because I had to go so much and had to say the way of the cross and the road. Well, fast forward, I was able to graduate from high school. And one of my regrets after high school was I'm short. I'm a little short fellow, you know, look like I was looking like the Pillsbury Doughboy, real heavy, but I played football and I walked on at a junior college, if you know what that is, and I got a scholarship and I quit. After I got my scholarship, I don't know why. And be honest, I was going to be, you know, in this program, I said, I don't know if I was homesick or what, but that was one of my regrets that I'd made. And I come to find out that I would do that often, especially drinking. I never followed through on things. Well, I graduated from junior college, and believe it or not, I went to a college and graduated from a university. Now, and you hear all the stories, you know, you're the first one to graduate out of your family for a university or that. I said, well, I didn't have to go to the Vietnam War because I was like the Pillsbury Doughboy. I weighed about 250 pounds, and they wouldn't accept fat people. So, you know, I guess the man up above today, I realized he had a plan for me. Well, I graduated, and then I was in the teaching profession, and everything was going fine. I was drinking, but I never thought I was an alcoholic. I always thought an alcoholic was like on Andy Griffin, Otis, but I wasn't. I didn't consider myself. I thought I was a controlled drinker, or however how you say it. Well, lo and behold, I finally found Cher. We call it the ladies on the bayou Cher. I found a Cher, and she married me. I don't know why, but she decided she wanted to marry this little short fat dago, and everything was going fine. You know, she drank, I drank. We drank a lot, and I had a son. We had a son, and one day she came in the house and said she wanted to get a divorce. And I didn't know why. I was working like 3 jobs then. I was working, I was doing it all. And she was younger than me. She was about like 10 or 12 years. And I guess we got married when I was about 35. I guess she wanted to go out and have a good time. Well, she left and she took my boy. I don't know if any of you know what that means to a man, but I mean, that was the worst thing I think ever happened to me. So I got this bright idea, little old Dago, like I said, hell, I go to treatment, I get my wife back, and I get my boy back. Well, and in the meantime, I didn't go for about 3 years to treatment. In the meantime, I met another sheriff that I was dating. Well, I told her, called her that morning, spur of the moment, went to treatment, called her and told her I was in treatment. Well, I went to treatment for like 21 days, got out, did all that bullshit they tell you, never worked the program, never learned about character defects. Got back, I went to see my ex-wife and said, will you come back home? I got this diploma in my hand, shaking this diploma. She said, hell no. I said, wow. So I went to treatment for nothing, I thought. And then I went back to see Cher, and hell, she was having an affair on me while I was in treatment. I said, shit, excuse me for saying that. I got in my pick-em-up truck and said, well, why not start drinking again? You don't have any reason not to. So I drank for a while, and I drank. And I think I became what they call a functional alcoholic. I helped my job, so I did all of that. And this is where the story where I finally realized, and Glenn can tell you, I had a hard time with God. I knew in AA there was a higher power. Something saved me. And I want to tell this story, especially for newcomers, and that there's always hope out there. My son turned 7 on October the 6th, 1992. I didn't drink at his birthday party. It was in Alexandria, Louisiana. I was going to show everybody I do not have to drink. I don't know if any of you have ever done that before. Oh, but the next day, guess what happened? I found a bottle, took the cork out, and I drank for about a day or so. I don't remember. Came back home, and I live in a little bungalow, and I found out that I blacked out. I didn't even know what a blackout was. I thought it was I passed out. Well, I woke up about 10:30, and I said, something's got to happen, because I can't live like this. And I got up, and that's the chair I was sitting in, walked over to my mahogany box, pulled out a 45 automatic Coke. And I said, well, I can end this right now. But Ben, and I tell jokes and I make jokes about it. And I looked down, I had carpet in the den. I said, if I kill myself, I'm going to mess up the carpet. My son's got to spend money to clean it up, and he's not going to have a daddy. I got to do something. This is why AA is part of my life. I made a phone call to a gentleman called Mr. Charles Whetstone. I'd been going in and out of the AA, and he was kind of like my sponsor, and I told him what was going on. And if you know anything about these big old Southern men about 6'2", wear cowboy boots with a big Stetson hat and a buckle, you don't argue with him. He said, boy, I'm coming to see you. And I didn't know that he had made another phone call to a judge that was like an uncle to me, was an hour drive away. In about 30 minutes or something, my front door just blew open. Just whoa. And here comes Mr. Charles with them big-ass cowboy boots. Say, hey, boy, get your ass up. We're going for a ride. I said, this is 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And I didn't know that he had got on the phone. He called his best friend that ran the Tall Center or rehab in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and we went on a ride. Cold, dreary. And I got down there, and they put me out. Now, I hunt and fish in the bayou and all that, and I don't get that scared that often. But I was a scared little boy that night. I was shaking, went into treatment, and I was there about 2 days or whatever. They put me in detox. I didn't need to be in detox. They didn't keep me there. About the third day, I got to thinking, that's the worst thing an alcoholic can do is think. And I went to my counselor and I said, hey, I want to go to outpatient. I'm going to con him. I'm good at conning people. I delegate everything I do. Well, he said, I don't think you need to go. Said, you need to stay here. Well, I went and I called my dad. That's when you had the phones on the wall, and I had a quarter, and I called my dad, and we were very close. My dad and mom always supported me they knew what I was doing and drinking and that, and they knew that I drank more than I did. I kind of blacked out when I was drinking, and my dad said, "Well, you give it one more night, and if you need to, I'll get somebody to come pick you up and bring you home, son." I don't know what happened. I went to bed that night. I remember grandmother got on my knees and said the rosary. I was reaching. Has anybody ever had to reach for something? I was desperate. Well, I got up that morning, wobbled up in the bathroom and looked in the mirror. And excuse me for using this language. I'll never forget I looked in that mirror and I said, I'm going to beat this son of a bitch. I said, I used to weigh 250 pounds. I was down to 180 pounds. I got a college degree. I got a son. I'm not going to let a bottle of alcohol beat me. And I went out. I didn't have an angel on my shoulder. I didn't have lightning come out of my butt or whatever you want to say. Something happened. Come to find out later, people tell me I had a spiritual awakening. I didn't know what that was at that time. Came out 31 years later, I have not had a drink. But it has not been a bed of roses. I became a dry drunk, if any of you know what that was. I went to meetings. I didn't work the program, and I got a sponsor, and my sponsor invited me to a crawfish boil. Now, you Cajuns, you go to a crawfish boil and you can't drink beer. You imagine that. So I went to the crawfish boil, and it was an AA crawfish boil. And I met another share there. And I said, in my mind, I said, look, I'm going to have me I'm going to marry this woman. She's in AA. I'm in AA. Everything's going to be fine. Well, we went along for about a month or so, and she got me to studying out of the big book. She gave me 2 pages of what they call character defects. I didn't even know what a character defect was. And she gave me a red pen, and she said, mark off all of your character defects. Hell, I ran out of red ink on the first page. I couldn't find out I was a bad boy. I had a lot of defects. Well, I called her on a Monday morning. She said, it's over with. We're not going to see each other again. I never saw that woman again. And come to find out, I'm not going to go through all that. It just didn't work out. But I didn't have any resentment towards that lady, that woman. I thank God she came into my life because she got me back into AA. And I started I was always going to meetings and everything. And the reason why I went to a meeting on Wednesday night in Woodville, my sponsor, Mr. Charles, on his deathbed, asked me to promise him that I would keep AA going on in Woodville. Now, Woodville, I would go. You ever heard the thing? You'd be by yourself, just one person, maybe 2 people. Hell, we met under oak trees. We got kicked out of the Catholic Church. Can you believe that? Out of the rectory. The damn priest came down there and told us we had to leave. That's when I got resentment, not towards after I talked to people about God and everything. I learned about my spiritual life. So we have that meeting, and I have it. And this is the part that I love about AA. I do the traditions and everything, and I'm able to give back. And before I get into that part, when I was sober, I was in politics. I was an alderman, and people came to me and asked me would I run for mayor in Woodville. Do you know that they put out pamphlets on me that I was an alcoholic? I was a drunk. And I didn't know what to do about that. But I was going to meetings. I was talking to my sponsor. And I'll never forget, I went down in the bottom. If anybody knows where the bottom was, and I had this black old lady that let me come into her house and sit on the couch. And she said, let me ask you, are you is that true that or I don't know if she said alcoholic or drunk or whatever. I said, yes, ma'am. I've been in treatment. I've been sober. I'm trying to get my life. She went and got the Bible and said, look, this is what you need to do. You need to read the Bible. I said, okay. I didn't promise I'd read the Bible. She said, if you consider about and you're not drinking, and we'll support you. Can you believe this? She said, I'm going to the church and tell them exactly who you are, and what you're doing. And can you help my people? So when I got elected, and everything was going, and we built a new municipal building. It was my dream to build, and that was my bill. I call it my bill. I'm very selfish about that building. The first board meeting, we had this guy said, now, you know, we can't have any meetings in this building unless they're related with town business, the government. I stood up and said, I want to ask y'all to change that. I want to have one meeting a week. I made a promise to Mr. Charles Whetstone that I'm going to have a meeting. And I want to have a meeting on Wednesday night at 6 o'clock for AA. If you don't know what that is, that's Alcohol Anonymous. Do you know all of them voted for us to have that meeting in that building on Wednesday night? And the funny thing about it, the jail, to come into the meeting, you got to go by the jail, by the police station. It was in the same room. And I didn't know how important that meeting was, but one night I had this young black lady that came in, swung the doors open, walked by the dispatcher's office with the PD, and she walked in, and there was little short me sitting there, my hippie sponsor with a ponytail on, about 6'2", and another old white man, 3 white. And that poor lady girl came in, and she was shaking. And she said, is this where y'all have the A meeting? She was court appointed. And I'm going to get through it real quick. And I said, yes. Got up. I hugged her. I gave her my card that I have, my mayor's card with my private number on there, and said, you're welcome. Do you know 3 years later, she graduated from drug court? She's a nurse now. So all of this went along, and we have our meetings here. And now, some of you know that on Wednesday night we have people that come in there for drug court, had to have the paper signed. I called Glenn, my sponsor from Tennessee. I called him because I was having difficulty with signatures and all of that. And I decided, I said, look, if I'm not there on Wednesday night, these people won't have anywhere to go. And they may not make it, but at least they have an opportunity. They have a chance. And today we have our meeting every Wednesday night. If I want to go to AA meetings, I'm not bragging, I have to travel anywhere from 30 to 45 miles to go to a meeting beside the one in Woodville. But what I found out is, for the young people in here that just started in this program and everything, don't be afraid to go to a meeting. Anywhere I go, I'm fortunate enough to travel around the world because of my boys, and I'll mention them in a minute, that I can find an AA meeting, and people open the door and they hug me. I'm a hugger. Oh, I love to hug. And I get all these free hugs. And it's just amazing. And I can get in my car, and if I got to go 45 minutes, I don't raise hell about it. I'm fortunate to be able to do that. And some of the things that are thrown to me, curves to me, that I'm able to handle, I live by the serenity prayer. I'm taking care of my brother that's a vet. He's in a VA home, and he's a handful. And I finally learned the other night at a meeting, they said love and acceptance, love and tolerance. That's what I got to do. I just got to let him do his thing and not get bent out of shape and destroy my life. But one of the things that I don't mind telling you, having a son in the South is for a dad is probably one of the greatest things. And I visioned that my son was going to do all of this in the world. Well, he moved back home with me when he was in the 9th grade. Can you believe that? Wanted to come back home and live with his dad. He did. He graduated from college. He went to, I'm going to throw it in there, Glenn. He was an LSU Tiger, you know, them Tigers. And he graduated and he moved to New Orleans and everything. And I knew my son was different. And I don't mind talking about this. He had, I knew he was me because he had them dago eyes and that dark olive complexion and all of that. And I knew he was different in a way. Well, we were in New Orleans one day walking down the street off of Magazine Street, and we was having a father and son weekend. We stayed in a fancy hotel. We ate all that good food. We ate boudin, gumbo, all of that. And he looked at me and he said, Dad, you know I'm gay. I looked at him and said, hell, boy, I know you're gay. I kissed him. So we went out, and that night he said, how you know I was gay? I said, boy, in Woodville, Mississippi, you came out of that door, you had these white tight ass pants on, a white belt, white shoes, and pressing your ass. and I said, I love you. And I mean, and he's been with me. He started going to AA meetings with me when he was 17 years old, and he still goes now, 31 years later, in Thailand. I get choked. Then he had a, I call a roommate then. Then I come to find out he was a partner. Okay. They called me and said, look, we want you to come to Arizona for a week. We're going to go out. Well, I get to Arizona and we sitting walking around. They said, well, guess what? They flew into San Francisco and we stopped in Las Vegas and got married. I said, well, ain't that some shit? I said it like that. And they said, let me tell you why we didn't invite you. Because if we would have invited you, we'd have had to invite mama, her stepdaddy, all the kids, and we would have had to pay for everything. You're at our wedding now, and so I got a whole week to be with them in Arizona. So what I'm saying, AA has given me back more in my life than I deserve. I really do. I mean, and to this day, thank God and see, I say that word God. Thank God that I'm able to meet people, and I don't want to give them the big head like Glenn. I meet people in New Jersey. It's a family. In closing with this, if you don't think people in AA do things for you, down here on the bayou, we have hurricanes. I mean, we went with it or destroy. Well, we had a storm a few years ago, and I had a gentleman from Tennessee call me, wanted to know what they could do for Woodville. That was Glenn. It would have never happened without AA. Thank y'all. Love y'all. That's all from the bayou.